Hello Steam fans and welcome to another episode of Greenlight Highlights. Now we've got another 6 Greenlight games for you today, but before I talk about those I just want to say thank you to everyone that looked at, liked and commented on the Everland review that I put up a few days ago. It's been our biggest video so far by a long margin, so thank you very much for checking it out, and there will be many more reviews coming in the next couple of weeks. Now the first game we're going to look at this week is Pulse by Team Pixel Pie. Now this game is being developed for Mac, PC and Linux. It's a first-person experimental game in which you are blind and have to use echolocation to navigate around the world. Now in the game all sound reveals details of what's around you, and it's your only way of navigating, and this can sometimes be distorted by memories which can lead to terrifying imagery. Now the game is based on 3 emotions which all revolve around being lost in a dark forest. One of the emotions is fear, one is curiosity and one is discovery. Now in this world you're joined by some very overly cutesy creatures called mokos, which help guide you by producing noises. You can even throw them around to sort of test the walls and see how far away things are. However, they're not the only mobs, there are also mobs that are trying to kill you. Now, I wouldn't ordinarily feature a game like this on the list because it's on Kickstarter and as of yet it hasn't reached its goal. There's only, as of recording this, there are only 3 days left and I think they're only at 55%. Now it's looking, unless there's a big drive towards the end, which sometimes there is, it's looking as though it's not going to get funded. However, this game isn't just a concept, there is a prototype. There's actually a playable prototype at the minute. If you go to the Kickstarter page, which is linked down below, then you can actually download and play the prototype. However, there seems to be enough interest in this game, and the game's won enough awards that I think in some way, shape or form, whether it gets funded or not on Kickstarter, this game will see the light of day. So I'm happy to push it for Greenlight, as if it gets voted onto Greenlight regardless of getting funded on Kickstarter, it shows that there's enough support for it to actually be made, and so it might help them seek investment from elsewhere. As you can see from the video, it is a really good looking game, and it's a really unique concept and a really nice concept, and it's always nice to see these indie developers trying new things and trying new technologies and new dynamics and just approaching something from a different standpoint. Right, our next game this week is Battleworld's Kronos, which is a game from King Art Games. Now, much like Pulse, this is another Kickstarter game, however this one is fully funded. It's actually got quite a way to go yet on Kickstarter, and yet it's reached 143% as of recording. Now, this is also being developed for PC, Mac and Linux, and it is a single-player and multiplayer cross-platform turn-based strategy game. Now this is a game very much in the vein of Battle Isle as well as Advance Wars, but with a completely updated look. It looks very much like modern RTS games such as Red Alert 3 and some more recent games. It's got a really nice sort of colour palette and the unit models are fantastic. There's some really nice detail in there. As I said before, it has been a Kickstarter success, but they are constantly adding stretch goals, seeing as they've got so much longer to go. So do check those out. As it is, the game will feature single-player campaigns, 2 currently for 2 different factions, which adds up to around 30 hours of gameplay. Single-player challenge maps with, I'm guessing, some sort of leaderboard setup. However, they haven't mentioned a leaderboard. Live multiplayer, which lets you battle your friends across the internet or via Hotseat, and it also features asynchronous multiplayer, much like the play-by-mail games, in which you take the time to consider your moves, complete your moves, send them to the opponent. Your round is stored on a server and then turned over to your opponent. He or she takes her time, looks over what she wants to do, completes her move and so on. So it means you can continue the match over any period of time you want. That way, if you want to, do something, sort of jump on, have a little go with a friend one evening, you can do it like once a week. It's a really nice setup, especially if you're working away or if you're away from home for any considerable amount of time. The game will also feature a powerful map editor as well, so theoretically you could be creating your own maps and missions endlessly. And they've announced that the game will be released in the fourth quarter of 2013, and it will be launching synchronously for PC, Mac and Linux. Also featured this week is Double Bear Productions' Dead State, which is a strategy RPG horror. Now, what's really nice about this is it is a grid-based, turn-based zombie strategy game. So rather than just running around decapitating zombies, you have to plan out your strategies as you go and have to fend off zombies whilst collecting items for your survival. You must organise a handful of allies which are working to fortify a shelter and scouting for food and supplies whilst meeting other NPCs. It's a fully fledged RPG featuring shelter building and management, as well as turn-based tactical combat, and there is actually some storyline in there as well. Now this one is PC only, and there is really very little information available at the moment as to when it will be being released. However, this does look like a really promising title. If you're a fan of games like XCOM, then this could very well be for you. It looks as though there's a great deal of exploration in it, as well as management and combat. So if they can get the balance just right, it could be a really great little game. Now, I know the zombie market is a bit oversaturated at the minute, particularly amongst games, and it seems as though every other little indie game coming out at the minute is zombie related. However, this is a nice change of pace, and it is a turn-based strategy game rather than another first-person shooter or another top-down shooter, which seems to often be the case. So if you are a strategy fan, please do go and give it a look. Right, also this week we have Produce Wars from Gigaloth Games. Now, you'll have to hear me out on this one. At first glance, this does appear to be an Angry Birds clone or rip-off. However, there is far more to the game than at first appears. Now, this is a mobile port as far as I'm aware, and it will be priced at $3. So this isn't going to break the bank. They're also saying that the Steam version is game controller enabled from the offset and will be ideal for Steam Big Picture mode. They're also planning on having expanded bonus content and level expansion packs. The core gameplay mechanic is to use explosive barrels to launch your fruits at vegetables and their structures, analysing weak points and maximising destruction. Now, I know what you're thinking, you swap barrels for slingshots and you've got Angry Birds. However, there's more of a puzzle element to this game. The game involves various things such as switches, fans, springs, animals, spikes, and various other traps, which brings a sort of fresh take from something like Angry Birds. In fact, this is sort of bringing in some elements that I think games like Angry Birds should have brought in a while ago. You know, there have been successive Angry Birds titles, and all that's changed so far is a gravity mechanic. Except for the few odd bits and pieces brought in by the Star Wars game, there's nothing really massively changed in the game. However, Produce Wars seems to have taken the basic gameplay mechanics of Angry Birds and games like it and expanded upon them and created more of a fully fledged game. So, like I say, suspended disbelief for a moment and do check this one out. It does look like it could be worth your time. Right, this next game might look a bit familiar to some of you. This is God Factory, and we put this on our list a couple of weeks ago. However, since then, the game has been featured in an upload by YouTube's Total Biscuit in a video that he recorded while at PAX East, speaking with one of the developers. God Factory Wingman is a 4v4 competitive space combat sim with the goal of destroying an enemy carrier ship whilst defending your own. So essentially, as they say themselves, it is a combat sim MOBA. They're billing the game at somewhere between $15 and $20 and plan on supporting it for years to come with additional content and DLC, both paid and free. Now there is joystick support, and they're talking about Oculus Rift support as well, which could be a hell of a combination. There is an element of customization. You can completely change the loadout of your ship. and appearance as a result, and with lots of different buffs and lots of different stats. They're really emphasising the strategy in this game. There are 4 playable species, and all of them have got their own unique parts and features to choose from to help you in the in-game dogfights. Now, they really are focusing on the strategy with this game, and they're saying cooperation on this game is an absolute must, so this is definitely a sort of game to play with friends, or with at least with party chat open. Now, what's quite interesting about this is the carriers that you're trying to destroy and defend are absolutely massive in terms relative to your ship. They're 13 kilometers long, so they are huge structures compared to the ship you're flying around in. In order to destroy the ships, you have to go for weak spots and vulnerable areas. So I think the ship has to lose something like 6 vulnerable points, and seeing as there's only 4 of you on a team, there's a trade-off of deciding what area you're going to defend on this massive area, and what you're going to leave behind. So whether it's a matter of you're going to just focus on guarding a couple of areas to make sure that they can't be destroyed, or if you want to switch between various areas, there's some really interesting strategy to be had there. These weak points aren't just superfluous weak points, these are weak points that actually serve a purpose on the ship. So they might be an ammo magazine or a communication tower, which means that if destroyed, then it affects your game in a greater capacity as well. Now, another element of strategy involved is the fact that the carriers can fire at each other, which means that rather than just go, you could either go on the attack and attack an enemy with your carrier attacking at the same time, or you could choose to hold back and defend your carrier whilst your carrier fires shots at the enemy team. One other really interesting little feature is that you have a hot swapping element in regard to your ship. When you start a game, you actually take 2 ships into the game. One you control and one you leave docked, which then allows you to repair your shields and repair your ship. Now, it's still an early alpha, so there's still some new stuff to come to be announced yet. They haven't announced everything, they haven't incorporated everything they want to incorporate yet. And it's always nice to see a nice strategic, competitive multiplayer. Right, the 6th and final game this week is the Mims Beginning, which is from Squatting Penguin Studios. Fantastic name there. The Mims Beginning is a sort of god sim / farming sim, plus it seems to have a little of Pikmin in there. It's a very cutesy looking, stylized sim game which sees you controlling Mims, which are small creatures that are looking for a new home and crash land on asteroids made up of floating islands with various challenges. You have to colonize these asteroids. And use various farming techniques, research new research technologies, upgrade buildings. You've got to protect your Mims from the environment. You've got to fight off hostile mobs, and you've got to gather new resources as well as sell on excess resources. There's a little of Don't Starve in there, as well as some god sims. It's a really nice looking game. As I say, it's got when you look at it, it does bring, it does evoke memories of Pikmin. There's also very much a Spore-like quality to the graphical art as well. It's a really nice looking game. It looks like it could be quite a fun game. It all depends on how much depth the game has ultimately. I mean, things like Don't Starve are doing something very similar, but what Don't Starve does well is it updates constantly. There's new things being added to the game all the time, and it's really sort of fleshing the game out. Anyway, that's all we have for you this week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for watching our videos and subscribing, and if you aren't subscribed and you did enjoy the video, then please do, and please like and comment, because it really does help push our videos a little bit more in the search results and the search engines. Thank you.